Governor J. Kim stood at the viewing window of Novo Terra's administration building, watching children play in the colony's central garden. The artificial sky dome projected a perfect blue day with wisps of clouds, hiding the harsh reality of the planet's actual atmosphere beyond the protective barriers. 5 years ago, humans had established this colony on the edge of known space. 5 years of hard work, careful diplomacy, and endless meetings with representatives of the Galactic HFY, the ancient alliance of species that ruled most of the Milky Way with technological prowess that still made Earth scientists gape in wonder. "Governor, your daughter is asking for you again," said her assistant, sliding a tablet across the desk. Jay smiled, touching the screen to accept the call. 8-year-old Nari's face appeared, her eyes bright with excitement. "Mom, guess what? The Blue Ambassador's son showed me how their writing works. It's like painting, but the colors change, meaning depending on how fast you move the brush." "That sounds amazing, sweetie. Are you being respectful to our guests?" "Of course," Taro says. "Humans learn really fast. He's never met any before. Can he come for dinner tonight?" Jay felt a flutter of hope. This was exactly the kind of cultural exchange she'd been pushing for. Children who grew up knowing each other's species would build a better future than the tense standoff the adults. "Maintained. I'll speak with Ambassador Krell. Now go back to your class, okay?" Later that day, Jay reviewed security reports in her office when alarms suddenly blared throughout the colony. Her security chief burst through the door. "Governor, hegemony warships just appeared in orbit. They're claiming we're developing forbidden weapons technology." "That's absurd." Jay slammed her hand on the desk. "Get me a channel to their command. Now." Before the communication could be established, the first impacts rocked the colony dome. Emergency barriers slammed into place, but not fast enough for some sections. Warning lights flashed as life support systems in the eastern residential quarter failed. "The school," Jay whispered, her blood turning cold. "My daughter is in the school." She ran through hallways filled with panicking colonists, ignoring calls from her security team. Emergency response crews rushed past in the opposite direction. Through windows, she could see energy weapons slicing through the colony's outer defenses. When she reached the school, part of the roof had collapsed. Teachers were evacuating children through side exits, faces streaked with dust and fear. "Nari!" she shouted over the chaos. "Has anyone seen Nari Kim?" A teacher with a bleeding gash on her forehead approached. She was with the ambassador's son in the cultural center when the attack began. Jay pushed her way through debris toward the cultural center, calling her daughter's name. The building had taken a direct hit. Where the eastern wall should have been, there was nothing but twisted metal and sparking electrical systems. Hours later, when the attack finally ended, rescue teams found them. The young hegemony child, Taro, was critically injured but alive, protected by the naturally armored skin of his species. But nestled beside him, apparently having tried to shield, her friend was Nari. She hadn't survived. Jay sat numb in the colony's emergency command center as reports came in. 43 colonists dead, including 12 children. The hegemony ships had withdrawn after the brief, devastating attack. A communication officer approached cautiously. "Governor, we're receiving a transmission from the Hegemony Council. They claim it was a rogue military operation, unauthorized by Central Command. They're apologizing." "Put it through to my private terminal," Jay said, her voice hollow. The message was filled with diplomatic doublespeak. Regrettable incident. Unauthorized action. Full investigation promised. Compensation offered. But as Jay listened, her intelligence officer silently placed a tablet before her. On it was a decoded transmission intercepted just before the attack. "Operation Human Containment. Authorized by Council Vote 7-2. Proceed with demonstration strike on Novo Terra colony. Minimal force authorized to achieve deterrent effect." They all had planned this. They had voted on it. They had deliberately targeted a human colony with children while publicly claiming it was a mistake. Jay stood up, her grief hardening into something cold and sharp. Every diplomat knew the humans had agreed to certain limitations when joining the galactic community. Limited military presence, restricted expansion, careful technology development under supervision. What the hegemony didn't know, what almost no one remembered anymore, was why humans had accepted those terms so easily. "Get me a secure channel to Earth Command," she ordered. "Priority Alpha." When the encrypted connection was established, Jay looked into the eyes of the Earth Defense Command General. She spoke 4 words that hadn't been uttered in over a century. "Open." "Protocol Lazarus now." There was a long silence on the other end, then, "Verification code required, Governor." "Verification Eden 7 Prometheus full. They killed our children." The general's face showed shock, then grim understanding. "Understood, Governor Kim. May God have mercy on them, because what we're about to wake up certainly won't." As Jay ended the transmission, she looked down at the photo of her daughter on her desk. The hegemony thought they understood humans based on a century of careful diplomacy and restraint. They were about to learn why humans had been given so much space in the galactic order, despite being newcomers. Some things were better left sleeping, until they weren't. 200 meters beneath the cratered surface of Earth's moon, in a facility known only as the Vault, dust gathered on equipment that hadn't been touched in 150 years. Security systems hummed quietly, maintaining the perfect temperature and atmosphere required by their precious cargo. Then everything changed. Lights flashed to life along silent corridors. Dormant computer systems activated, running diagnostics, and preparing protocols established generations ago. In the central chamber, 12 large cylinders lined the walls, their surfaces frosted over with decades of deep freeze. Dr. Taewon wiped sweat from his forehead as he reviewed the revival sequence. As Earth Command's leading cryogenic specialist, he'd studied these systems his entire career, never actually believing he'd use them. "Are we really doing this?" whispered his assistant. "They're not even human anymore." "Not really. They're human." "Enough," Taewon replied, entering the final authorization code. "And we need them." With a hiss, the first cryochamber's locks disengaged. Fog rolled out from the opening seal, bringing with it the smell of medical preservation fluids. Inside, a woman lay perfectly preserved, looking exactly as she had when sealed away a century and a half ago. Colonel Hannah Park, leader of the Valkyrie unit. Her military file listed over 300 confirmed combat operations, 97 of which remained classified even now. According to legend, she once held off an entire rebel battalion alone for 3 days during the Civil War. Vital monitors began showing activity as her enhanced body started the awakening process faster than any normal human could. Her eyelids twitched, fingers flexed. "Heart rate stabilizing," called out a medical technician. "Brain activity increasing to normal patterns." Taewon leaned forward. "Colonel Park, can you hear me?" Her eyes snapped open, instantly alert without the confusion most cryogenic patients experienced. Those eyes scanned the room, cataloging threats, exits, and potential weapons before focusing on Taewon's face. "Who are you?" Her voice was rough from disuse, but carrying unmistakable authority. "Dr. Taewon, Earth Defense Command Medical Division." "Colonel, you've been in cryo sleep for 152 years. If this news shocked her, she didn't show it. She simply nodded, as if confirming something expected, and sat up in one smooth motion, disconnecting monitoring equipment from her body. "The war?" she asked. "Long over," Taewon answered. "Your side won. Earth unified under one government 50 years after you went under." "Then why wake us? Protocol Lazarus was established for extinction-level events only." An officer stepped forward from the back of the room. "Because we're facing one now, Colonel. I'm General Han of Earth Command. The galaxy isn't empty, as we once thought. We've encountered other civilizations, formed agreements, established colonies." Hannah swung her legs over the side of the cryochamber, ignoring the medical staff who wanted to run more tests. "And one of them betrayed you. 3 days ago, the galactic hegemony attacked our colony on Novo Terra. 43 dead, including children who were deliberately targeted." Hannah's face remained impassive, but something flickered behind her eyes, a cold rage carefully controlled. "Show me," she said. In the briefing room, Hannah watched footage from the attack. She paid special attention to the hegemony weapons, their tactics, the structural weak points they targeted. "They're skilled," she noted, "but overconfident. They don't expect serious resistance." "They've never faced anything like you and your team," General Han replied. "The Valkyries were considered too dangerous to exist in peacetime." That's why you were preserved rather than terminated, our final insurance policy. Hana's enhanced vision caught the subtle tells of the general's body language. You're not telling me everything. Han hesitated, then handed her a data tablet. We found this in their communications. They knew exactly what they were doing. The screen showed intercepted messages discussing the human problem and the need for a demonstration of consequences to keep Earth in its place. One passage highlighted the school specifically as a target. Hana set the tablet down very carefully, as if afraid she might crush it. Wake the others. One by one, the remaining Valkyries emerged from cryo-sleep. June, the tactical specialist, whose enhanced brain could calculate battlefield probabilities faster than any computer. Minji, the infiltration expert whose modified nervous system could control her body's heat signature and heartbeat. 10 others, each walking weapons designed during humanity's darkest hours. They gathered around a holographic display of the hegemony fleet positions. Unlike regular soldiers who might need time to adjust to the future they found themselves in, the Valkyries were designed to adapt instantly. Their enhanced minds absorbed new information like sponges, updating strategies and capabilities without hesitation. They believe humans are weak, Hana told her team as they studied alien ship designs. They think we agreed to their restrictions because we had to. June nodded, his eyes tracking fleet movements with inhuman precision. They don't know about us, or why we were put to sleep in the first place, added Minji softly. The room fell silent. Every person there knew the histories. The Valkyries hadn't just won battles, they'd ended them permanently. Their efficiency had been terrifying even to the side they fought for. When peace finally came, both sides agreed. Weapons like these shouldn't exist in civilization, but they'd kept them just in case, because humans knew their own history too well to believe peace would last forever. Hana stood before a window overlooking Earth, shining blue and green in the blackness of space. So much had changed while they slept. New buildings, new nations, new technologies, but some things remained exactly the same. They killed a child, she said simply. They killed many children to send a message. She turned to General Han. We'll send one back. The general nodded grimly. Your transport leaves in 6 hours. Full tactical authorization has been granted. As the others filed out to prepare, Dr. Tae-won approached Hana cautiously. Colonel, there's something else you should know, about the governor of the colony who authorized Protocol Lazarus. He handed her another file. Inside was a genetic analysis of Governor Jae Kim and her daughter Nari. Hana's enhanced eyes picked out the markers immediately, specific gene sequences that looked familiar because they matched her own. How is this possible? She whispered. Before you went into cryo-sleep, samples were preserved, in case the modifications you carry were ever needed again. Governor Kim's family line carries your genetic markers. The child who died, she was your descendant. For the first time since awakening, emotion broke through Hana's carefully controlled expression. Something ancient and terrible filled her eyes. They didn't just kill a human child, she said. They killed one of ours. The hegemony cruiser Eternal Vigilance hung in space above the mining colony of Vega 9, its sleek form resembling a predatory animal poised to strike. Inside the command center, Admiral Krell reviewed defense reports with growing concern. Another outpost gone silent? He growled, his scaled skin flushing with stress colors. That's the 5th this week. What is happening? His second-in-command approached cautiously. The humans, sir, they're responding. Responding? They have no significant military fleet. Their technology is centuries behind ours. The attack on their colony was meant to remind them of their place. Sir, intelligence suggests they've deployed something different. Not ships, not conventional forces. Before the Admiral could demand clarification, alarms blared across the bridge. Security feeds from the lower decks showed emergency doors sealing, then losing power. Communications from entire sections went dead. We're being boarded, Krell roared. How? There are no ships within detection range. The answer arrived moments later when the bridge doors slid open. A single human female stood in the doorway, dressed in form-fitting combat armor. She appeared unarmed, but something about her stance made every instinct in Krell's body scream danger. "Valkyrie Unit Commander Hannah Park," she said calmly. "Your ship is now under human control." Guards rushed, forward with energy weapons drawn. The human moved with impossible speed, flowing between energy blasts like water. She didn't avoid the attacks, she simply wasn't where they fired. In 20 seconds, every guard lay unconscious. "How?" Krell whispered. "You study our ships, our technology, our apparent limitations," Hannah said, approaching his command chair. "You never thought to study us, what we're capable of, what we've made ourselves capable of." Across hegemony space, similar scenes played out with methodical precision. The Valkyries didn't attack civilian targets or population centers. They simply dismantled the hegemony's military infrastructure piece by piece. On the fortress world of Caraxes Prime, June walked casually through energy barriers that should have disintegrated any living thing. His enhanced cells absorbed the energy, channeling it away from vital organs. Guards watched in horror as their most powerful defenses did nothing but make the human's skin glow slightly. When he reached the central control room, he didn't make demands or threats. He simply sat down at their command console and began shutting down planetary defense systems, one by one. "What are you?" asked the terrified commander. June looked up, his eyes reflecting the computer displays. "The same thing all humans are, adaptable." In the rings of a gas giant housing the hegemony's primary fuel depot, Minji infiltrated the station. That coordinated shipments to the entire battle fleet. Security sensors designed to detect any known species remained silent as she adjusted her body temperature and heartbeat to mimic the station's ambient machinery. She planted molecular disruptors throughout the fuel processing system, not to destroy it but to render the fuel inert. Within a day, warships across 3 sectors found themselves drifting powerless. Back on the Eternal Vigilance, Admiral Krell found himself seated across from Colonel Park in his own private quarters, converted into an improvised interrogation. "Shroom, you must understand," he pleaded. "The attack was intended to be limited, a warning, not an extermination. A warning that specifically targeted children," Hannah replied, her voice never rising above conversational level. "You should know that we were saving those for last." "Saving what?" "Questions." She placed a data tablet between them. The location of every hegemony military installation, fleet deployment schedule, command codes, and defensive capabilities. "We already have most of this information, but I'm offering you the opportunity to confirm it." Krell stared in disbelief. "Impossible. Even with your enhancements, you can't have gathered this much intelligence in 1 week. We didn't need to. Your own people provided it." She showed him surveillance footage of hegemony officers willingly handing over classified data to humans who appeared completely ordinary. "No weapons, no threats, just conversation." "I don't understand," Krell said. "Not all of us were designed for combat," Hannah explained. "Some were made for persuasion, enhanced pheromones, micro-expressions that bypass conscious thought, voice modulation. That triggers trust responses across species. You'll find many of your officers have been surprisingly helpful without even realizing it." The truth dawned on Krell with sickening clarity. The humans hadn't just awakened warriors, they'd unleashed something far more comprehensive, a system of warfare that operated on levels the hegemony hadn't even considered defending against. "What do you want?" he finally asked. "Initially, justice for Novo Terra, but we've learned something interesting during our campaign." She leaned forward slightly. "Your leaders were afraid of us even before they knew about the Valkyries. Our question is, why?" Before Krell could answer, a communications officer was escorted in by another human, June, who had apparently completed his mission. "On Caraxes Prime, Colonel, we've intercepted a priority transmission from the Hegemony Council," the officer reported. "They're mobilizing the Sovereign Fleet, all 19 dreadnoughts." Hannah nodded calmly. "As expected." Expected? Krell couldn't hide his confusion. "The Sovereign Fleet has more firepower than all your world's weapons combined. Even beings like you couldn't possibly stand against it. We're not planning to." She stood, signaling the end of their conversation. "Admiral Krell will be joining us for the next phase. Prepare a shuttle." As they escorted the Admiral through the corridors of his own ship, he noticed something strange. Despite the Valkyrie's devastating efficiency, there were no dead hegemony. Crew members, only incapacitated ones being treated by their own medics under human supervision. "I don't understand your strategy," Krell said as they boarded a sleek vessel of obvious human design. "You have the capability for total destruction, yet you're showing restraint." Hana secured him in a seat as the shuttle detached from the captured cruiser. "The difference between your people and mine," she replied, "isn't our capacity for violence. All intelligent species have that. The difference is our capacity for mercy, and when we choose to exercise it." The shuttle accelerated away as the Admiral watched his mighty warship shrink in the viewport. No explosions followed, no destruction. "You're not destroying our ships?" "No," June answered from the pilot's seat. "We're collecting them." As they cleared the region, Krell saw dozens of hegemony vessels moving in perfect formation, all under human control, all headed toward the approaching sovereign fleet. "You told me you weren't planning to stand against our main fleet," Krell said, newfound dread in his voice. Hana's expression remained unnervingly calm. "We're not. But your ships will." Deep within the abandoned archives of Hegemony Prime, Hana moved silently through dust-covered halls that hadn't seen visitors in centuries. The capital world's most secure facility had fallen with surprising ease, not through combat, but because Minji had simply walked in, using access codes extracted from Admiral Krell's memories. "These records go back thousands of years," June said through their secure comlink. "Most aren't even in digital format anymore." Hana ran her fingers over ancient storage crystals lining the walls. "Find anything related to humans or Earth." The Council was too afraid of something. "I want to know what." The confrontation with the Sovereign Fleet had ended before it truly began. When faced with their own ships turning against them, commanded by Valkyries who understood their systems better than they did after just days of study, the Hegemony Admirals had retreated, rather than fire upon their own vessels. Now a tense standoff had developed, giving Hana the opportunity she needed to search for answers. In a forgotten section marked with symbols for Prophecy Division, Minji discovered a sealed chamber. The security was unlike anything else in the EE facility, not designed to keep intruders out, but to contain something within. "I think I found it," she called. Inside was a single crystal pedestal surrounded by warning markers in dozens of languages. Hana recognized the oldest human language. Among them, "Do not access, species extinction risk." "They were scared enough to write warnings in our language," Hana observed, even though humans hadn't reached space when this was sealed. June connected their portable scanner to the crystal. The room filled with a holographic projection. Star. Charts, probability calculations, and genetic sequences floating in the air around them. "It's some kind of predictive model," he said, his enhanced mind processing the information faster than any normal human could. "They've been running simulations on various species' development patterns for thousands of years." Hana studied the projections, and they ran one on us. The simulation showed humanity's expansion through the galaxy in accelerated time, but unlike most species that either stagnated or destroyed themselves, the human projection showed something different. It didn't show conquest or war, it showed integration. Human ideas, human culture, human genetic material gradually spreading through alien civilizations. Not through force, but through cooperation and exchange. And in every simulation, the hegemony's influence faded as human influence grew. They weren't afraid we'd defeat them militarily, Hana realized. They were afraid we'd replace them culturally. June nodded slowly. "A species that adapts quickly, learns eagerly, and cooperates effectively. Over enough time, we'd become the dominant influence without ever firing a shot." Hana's lips pressed into a thin line. "So they decided to put us in our place while we were still developing." Their communicators buzzed with an urgent signal from Earth Command. General Han's face appeared, looking grave. "Colonel, we've discovered something you need to see immediately. Sending encrypted data now." Hana reviewed the files and felt something she hadn't experienced in years. Genuine shock. "Is this verified?" she asked. "Multiple sources confirm. All children in Novo Terra colony carried genetic markers from the Valkyrie program." The revelation hit Hana like a physical blow. The attack hadn't just targeted a human colony. It had targeted children carrying Valkyrie genetics, her genetics. Nari Kim wasn't just her distant relation. She represented an entire generation bearing their enhanced capabilities. They knew, she whispered. The hegemony knew about us all along. Leaving the archives, they returned to their captured ship, where Admiral Krell awaited. When confronted with the evidence, he sagged visibly. Not the full council, he admitted. Only a faction knew the truth. Most believed it was simply a preventative measure against human expansion. But some knew you were targeting specific genetic lines, Hana pressed. You knew these weren't ordinary children. Krell's skin flushed with colors that indicated profound regret in his species. The Continuity Division believed that if those genetic capabilities spread throughout your population naturally, within 10 generations, all humans would have your potential. The attack was meant to frighten your people into abandoning the colony program entirely. And the children were considered the highest threat. Their ability to form connections with other species' children demonstrated the very quality the simulations warned about. Your adaptability, your integration capabilities. Hana stared out the viewport at the stars. You feared children because they made friends too easily. While the Valkyries processed this information, another crisis was developing. Reports from Earth indicated growing political divisions. Some human leaders were beginning to fear the implications of having the Valkyries active again. We're hearing concerns about whether you can be controlled, General Han explained in a private communication. Some politicians are suggesting you're as much a threat to humanity as you are to the hegemony. They're not wrong, Hana replied honestly. We were created as weapons, General. Weapons rarely remain in their cases once discovered. The Earth Security Council convened an emergency session, with representatives arguing passionately about the future of the Valkyrie program. Historical records of their effectiveness during the Civil War had been declassified, sparking both awe and terror among Earth's population. We cannot put this genie back in the bottle, one councillor argued. The Valkyries have demonstrated capabilities beyond our wildest estimates. They've captured half the hegemony fleet in a week. Exactly why they cannot remain active, countered another. What happens when they decide humans are as worthy of judgment as aliens? Governor J. Kim, joining remotely from the recovering Novo Terra colony, finally spoke up. You're all missing the point, she said quietly. The Valkyries aren't separate from humanity. They're its distilled essence. Everything we are capable of, good and bad, concentrated and enhanced. She displayed images of the recovered Novo Terra colony, where hegemony medical teams now worked alongside humans to rebuild what was destroyed. The hegemony feared that natural human development would eventually incorporate the abilities the Valkyries possess. They saw our capacity to adapt and improve as a threat. Maybe instead of fearing our own potential, we should be embracing it. Back aboard the captured flagship, Hana received a secure transmission. Genetic records recovered from the hegemony databases showing exactly how they had tracked and targeted her bloodline. The children of Novo Terra represented something the hegemony truly feared, the natural evolution of humanity toward its full potential. Without the forced enhancements the Valkyries had undergone. They weren't just killing children, she told her team. They were trying to prune our evolutionary path. June studied the data with his enhanced perception. The irony is that by attacking us, they ensured the very outcome they feared. They forced us to wake you. Hana looked at her reflection in the viewport glass, seeing both herself and the stars beyond. The hegemony had feared natural human evolution because their simulations showed it leading to a very specific future. One, where humanity's greatest strength wasn't conquest or technology, but integration and adaptation. We have to make a choice, she said finally, between vengeance and vision. The flagship of the hegemony fleet drifted silently above Centaurus Station, once the pride of alien engineering, now serving as neutral ground for the most important diplomatic meeting in human history. Inside the Grand Council chamber, tension filled the air as representatives from 100 worlds waited anxiously. Admiral Krell stood with his delegation, his normally proud posture now humbled. Across the chamber, Earth's representatives appeared surprisingly calm for a species that had just brought the galaxy's dominant power to its knees in less than 3 weeks. Governor J. Kim entered first, her face showing the grief she still carried, but tempered now with resolve. She nodded to several alien representatives who had sent aid to Novo Terra after the attack. Then Colonel Hannah Park arrived with her Valkyries. The room fell silent. Many of the delegates had only seen recordings of these enhanced humans in action. In person, they carried an almost tangible presence. Not just physical power, but something more fundamental. They moved with absolute precision, their eyes taking in everything, minds processing information at speeds that made the most advanced AI systems seem sluggish. "The Hegemony Council acknowledges this emergency session," announced the Chief Counselor, a tall, willowy being whose species had helped found the Galactic Alliance 10,000 years earlier. "We are here to discuss terms following recent hostilities." Hannah stepped forward. "Let's be clear about what those hostilities were. The deliberate targeting of children as part of a campaign to contain human development." The Chief Counselor's skin flushed with embarrassment. "The actions taken by certain elements within our military were authorized by 7 members of this council," Hannah interrupted. "We have the voting records." Murmurs spread through the chamber. Many delegates hadn't known the full truth behind the attack. "What are your terms?" the Chief Counselor asked quietly. Earth Command had been explicit in their instructions. Demand reparations, military restrictions on hegemony forces, and oversight of alien activities near human space. Standard procedures after winning a conflict. But Hannah had seen something in the ancient archives that changed everything. The hegemony's fear wasn't irrational. It was based on centuries of observation. Humans didn't just adapt. They integrated. They learned. They grew. And in doing so, they changed everything around them. "Governor Kim will present our terms," Hannah said, stepping back. Jay walked to the center of the chamber, activating a holographic display. Everyone expected to see demands for territory or technology. Instead, they saw images of children, human and alien alike, playing together in the rebuilt gardens of Novo Terra. "My daughter died because you feared what humanity might become," Jay said, her voice steady despite the pain behind her words. "You feared that we would change the galaxy not through conquest, but through connection." She advanced the display to show scientific data recovered from the archives. "Your own predictions showed that human integration into galactic society would lead to unprecedented advancement for all species. Not human dominance, collective growth." The Chief Counselor shifted uncomfortably. "Those simulations were theoretical. The stability of the hegemony requires—" "Stability isn't the same as stagnation," Jay interrupted. "Your civilization has remained largely unchanged for 5,000 years. Even your technology advances at a glacial pace compared to what could be possible through true cooperation." "Admiral," Krell unexpectedly spoke up. "She's right, I've seen what these humans can do firsthand. Not just the Valkyries, but their adaptability, their creativity. We've been containing species with potential for millennia, fearing change." The chamber erupted in argument. Some delegates demanded punishment for the humans' military action. Others called for greater understanding. Through it all, Hannah and her team remained perfectly still, watching. Finally, Jay revealed Earth's unexpected proposal. Not isolation or punishment, but integration. Humans would join the hegemony not as a subjugated species, but as full partners. Educational exchanges, scientific collaboration, and cultural programs would be established immediately. "You fear what we might become," she concluded. "We're offering you the chance to become it with us." The debate lasted 3 days. Earth Command was furious when they learned Hannah had deviated from their instructions. General Han's face was red, with anger during their private communication. "You were ordered to secure our isolation and independence. Instead, you're entangling us with the very powers that attacked us." "With respect, General," Hannah replied calmly, "isolation is what they wanted. It's why they attacked Novo Terra, to frighten us back into our solar system. The archives proved it. That's not your decision to make. The Valkyries were awakened to serve humanity, not direct its future." Hannah's expression remained neutral. "We were awakened to ensure humanity's survival. This is how we survive. Not through force or isolation, but by becoming too essential to destroy." As negotiations continued, something unexpected happened. Several hegemony races began requesting private meetings with the Valkyries, not out of fear, but curiosity. These were scientific and cultural representatives seeking to understand the enhanced humans and their perspectives. Minji found herself explaining human adaptability to a group of alien anthropologists, while June discussed cognitive enhancement with leading neuroscientists from 6 worlds. Far from being reviled as weapons, the Valkyries became living bridges between species. On the final day, Hana met privately with Governor Kim in the observation deck overlooking the vastness of space. The stars stretched endlessly before them, countless worlds waiting. Earth Command is still unhappy with the terms, Jay said. They wanted guarantees of security. What we're getting is better than security, Hana replied. We're getting belonging. The difference between a fortress and a home. Jay studied the woman whose genetic legacy had partly lived on in her daughter. They're afraid of what happens next. Whether you and your team can be controlled now that you're awake. A valid concern. Hana turned to face her directly, which is why we've made our own decision. Later that day, in the packed council chamber, the final agreement was signed. The hegemony would transform from a controlling authority to a true cooperative of species, with humans as equal partners. Knowledge and technology would be shared. Children from all worlds would learn together. Then Colonel Hannah Park announced, "The Valkyries' decision. Once peace is fully established, we will return to cryo sleep voluntarily." A shocked silence fell over the chamber. "Our purpose was never to dominate, but to protect," she continued. "We represent what humanity can become, but the path to that future should unfold naturally, not through force or artificial enhancement." She approached Governor Kim and placed a small data crystal in her hand. "This contains the complete genetic and neural recordings of every Valkyrie, not as a template for soldiers, but as a record of potential, to be understood, not weaponized." Standing before representatives of 100 worlds, Hana spoke her final words as a military commander. "We were created for war, but we choose peace. We were awakened for vengeance, but we choose growth. The children of tomorrow, all children from all worlds, deserve to find their own way forward." 6 months later, as the first integrated school opened on Novo Terra with students from 22 species, the Valkyries returned to their cryo chambers. But this time, they weren't hidden away in a secret lunar facility. Their resting place became a monument at the heart of the new galactic cooperative, a reminder of both humanity's capacity for protection and its wisdom in restraint. Governor Kim stood with her hand pressed against the transparent wall of Hana's chamber, the woman inside perfectly preserved in suspended animation once more. "Sleep well," she whispered, "until we need you again." But the message to the galaxy was clear. Humanity slumbers, but never forget what happens when they wake.